Good evening and welcome to the annual ACMi annual meeting for 2022. I believe this is our 16th year of doing this as the town's media center. And we have this year with us our treasurer, Michael Ruderman, Nancy Barvick-Flynn, our clerk and board member, and Rayanna Ash, our other board member, and all of our staff and a couple of members of the community. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm John Leone, I'm the board president, and I'm just here to introduce people, including Norm McLeod.
Excellent, John.
Who's going to start next?
Okay, actually, we're going to go to him.
You going to go to Mike? Good.
Yeah, let's go to Mike.
Okay, let's go to Mike.
Well, thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Michael Ruderman, and I've been very privileged to be the treasurer of ACMi for, I believe, these past 5 years. Budget numbers look okay. I think that's the headline of anything that I would say tonight. We are in a period of revenue decline. Our revenues, as in the past, come from a contract that the town of Arlington has with the cable providers in Arlington. The cable providers remit 5% of their revenues each year to the town, and the town then has that money at its availability to fund community access television. So all of what we operate on comes from a portion of your cable bill, as law requires, to be remitted to the town, and then from the town to us, as we hold the franchise from the town of Arlington to provide cable access service. That number has been declining because more and more people, frankly, have been cutting the cable. And as more and more people do that, it means that the revenue for, we could say, the legacy cable companies at this point declines, and therefore our percentage too. This has caused us to reconfigure items in our budget for the last several years, and it is a testimony to our executive director's skill at working the line items that we've continued to provide a high quality, expanding, comprehensive service to the town in educational programming, in governmental and public affairs, and in general news and information coverage. It really is something that we can thank our staff and thank their executive director for, to continue to provide this as the revenue pie gets smaller. When now we look forward to greater finance revenue coming, perhaps a year or 2 years out, there could be some changes to the law at the state level, whereby the same 5% excise that's imposed upon the traditional cable providers would also be now imposed upon streaming services that operate in Massachusetts, sort of leveling the playing field, that if you're getting your entertainment and news feed through streaming rather than cable, you would also be supplying some of what it takes to keep this operation in business. It would probably be reflected as a change in whatever your streaming bill is, and the streaming companies might say for additional governmental fees and regulation, but that's us. That's what we depend upon to keep these lights on, to keep our doors open, and to keep on providing you with a seat at town meeting, or a seat at the football game, or a seat at the hockey rink, or a seat at a long and growing list of classes, and just general information that's brought to you every year. When we institute more broad-based fundraising, which we hope to do in this next year, we hope to remind people that this is the value that you're getting. We are one of really the only 2 locally devoted news services in town. One is web-based, ours is broadcast. We can't really say that we have a hometown newspaper anymore. People get their day-to-day news from us. And we hope to be able to provide you with the same quality and the same expansive coverage that we have in these years. The budget is challenging. We continue to have a sum of money invested in an endowment account and professionally managed. That's our emergency money. That covers expanding into our new second studio, Studio B, which is on Summer Street, close by to the high school, that the high school kids and others have been putting to great use. But it's that investment money that we've been drawing from the last several years. And as anybody can tell you, looking at the investment world the last couple of years, it's been tough going. Everybody's been knocked down. We're not bad. That's what our professional management is there for. That's what keeps us backstopped for the year-to-year fluctuations in our budget. But we're trying to reverse the trend lines, and we hope that when we come to you and the general public in the near future, that we can make the case that we're providing something of value and that you will help support us in what we deliver. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, Storm.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight, and for those who are viewing us, thank you for watching. We have a brand new annual report. For those of you who are not here tonight or watching, please look at our website. We'll have it posted there for you. And I looked at the website and I looked at the presentation that you're going to see tonight. And every time this happens, every year, I'm looking at this and saying what a phenomenal staff I've got. It is so, these guys are so creative. You give them their go and just boom, they go. They really move, and they create such marvelous media that that involves you, is exciting to look at, and you'll see what I mean when you see the presentation the staff has put together. But again, coming out of COVID, as Mike has said, and John too, we're exploded in terms of what we are able to do for the town at this point. We're up and running. We have more subscribers. We have more viewers. We have a larger following in general. And that's so good to see happen, because we have so much to offer the town. Some of the highlights of and it's in the annual report, some of the highlights that we have created this past year is, in the area of news, for example, we are first place in the country. Let me say that again. We are first place in the country in terms of national news for community access TV. Phenomenal. Hometown media is what it was called, and community news access was the category. And the news director, Jeff Barn, who is in the audience right now, congratulations to him. The other major event, which Mike had mentioned, was the creation of Studio B, which is in the basement of Food Link. Food Link is on Summer Street, 108 Summer Street. We built it out. And Jasper Hamilton, our new production manager, is the guy who's running that show. Of course, with the other person who's always involved in everything is Jeff Monroe. I mean, these guys put together created Studio B. They keep Studio A running. A phenomenal team, to say the least. Last year also, Jason Audette was our video engineer. He's no longer with us, but he was able to bring us up to a different standard, a different level of technology and different understanding of the technology and what we could do with what we already have. The other high point, another raised bar that we have, a higher coverage of sports coverage, was basketball, baseball, soccer, specifically girls' sports. It was a phenomenal amount of coverage that Aneem Osmani had created. Now, again, Aneem is no longer with us, but he raised the bar in this, and we were flooding our airways with the amount of sports coverage that we've got. We had grandmothers calling us to say, when can I see my granddaughter playing in soccer? So people were calling us to find out when these shows were going to be aired. That's what we want. We want that involvement. And for those of you who are watching, if you think you want to be involved in sports coverage, please let us know. We can put you to work, believe me. The last, not the last, but one of the other high points was we had our website redesigned, and that was under the auspices of one of the staff members, Katie Chang. Katie did a wonderful job redesigning it. It took a year because of COVID, servers not working properly at their end, not ours. Ours always work. But she did a great job. So it's easier to navigate. It's more chock full of information that would be of interest, I'm sure, to all of you at this point. So check it out, as the phrase goes, okay? The last thing is, as Mike had mentioned, the funding. We're looking at the state here. The state has moved a bill forward from the representatives to Senate. We're waiting to find out about that. It's called an Act to Modernize Funding for Community Media Programming. Fancy name, basically, but it means that what they're looking to do is obtain funding from entertainment streaming sources. The same way that we have 5% of our income coming from cable, the income is getting smaller because people are cutting the cord, as the phrase goes too. they're now streaming. Now, around the country, there are other stations who are receiving income from that revenue source. And big stations and small stations alike are, in Massachusetts, are hoping this bill passes. What it means, very simply, is that 20% of any money that the state gets from the streaming services will go into state coffers, 40% will go to the town, and 40% will go directly to the access station, meaning us. That would be very helpful in terms of our funding to make up for the loss of cable because of cable cutting. So all in all, it's been a very good year, as Frank Sinatra says. Oh wait, I'm dating myself. Do everybody know who Frank Sinatra is?
No.
Okay, okay. But it has been a very good year, and we're looking forward to an even better year. Now, the question I have for you is a little story, a personal story. I'm Scottish. My mother is Scottish, obviously. She used to have a phrase when somebody was making fun of her. She would say, "Are you trying to make a cod out of me, a fish? Are you trying to make a cod out of me?" Well, I'm going to transition over to what the staff had created. A cod out of me. I'm going to Americanize it, and we're going to say, they're trying to make a dummy out of me. Take a look.
Well, hello there. How's everybody? Welcome to the annual general meeting. I'm Norm McLeod. I'm the executive director here at ACMi. And boy, did we do a lot of stuff this year. I can't even begin to tell you what we did this year. So I brought my entire staff, since I am the executive director, to tell you all about it. So hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. And welcome to this year's annual general report. Take it away, guys.
This is where we film our weekly newscast with our beautiful anchors, Training Head and Alexander here. Alexander's a little new, but he's going to do great. This kind of lives here all the time and is ready for our weekly newscast. We can move stuff around and hide pieces if we need to, so we can still use the full studio, but for the most part, this can live where it is. And then our right side here is where a lot of our other producers and shows will make their content. We're still working with Christine Shaw, who's the executive director from the Council on Aging. We used to film that in person here at Studio A, and now with the new community center, we're filming there, and it looks beautiful. So that's a really fun show that's monthly. We Hold These Truths, produced and hosted by Michael Brown, and Conversations with Creative Minds with Michael Armanius, and hosted by John Harrison. And we actually have some new members, some new shows that came up this year. Elena Neva does a show called Meeting Interesting People. Taste of Arlington was a show that an intern started producing, and that is really fun and delicious, so check that out. What Sex Got to Do With It was produced and hosted by Len Diggins, and he interviews an author named Heather Rimoff, and it's a 17-episode journey. DEI Matters, which is hosted by Margaret Creedle Thomas. She's the DEI director for Arlington Public Schools, and that's another interview set here in Studio A. And we did a special collaboration this year with Barbara Thornton, who led a Broadway corridor design competition. This was with Envision Arlington, and it kind of just challenged groups to imagine this area of the Broadway corridor and what it might look like in the future. So people presented their ideas, and we had a whole panel of judges that deliberated on what the best idea was. So that was a really exciting project to be part of. And then, of course, we continued with a whole bunch of event coverage, musical coverage, working with AIFF on their film festival, the Robbins Library, and Town Day came back. We, with the help of interns and volunteers and all the staff, we filmed almost 6 hours of content. And concerts like Anatomy, Rumbarocco, Porch Fest, and lots of school content, of course, that Jasper covered with his students.
Woo!
There was a lot that was new in 2022. Firstly, me, Jasper. I'm the youth coordinator. I want to start by talking about our live concert coverage. Battle of the Bands 2022 is definitely a highlight. We used our new Blackmagic camera systems, which allowed for better creative control on location. After the summer, we hit the ground running with our main stage coverage of Town Day, where, again, the kids knocked it out of the park for 6 hours straight, not including setup time and breakdown, but who's counting? We've also had the pleasure of collaborating with the music tech department at the high school, broadcasting their Sonic Voyages showcase. This year, we brought back replay and graphics for winter sports and made lots of workflow improvements to make it easier to go live with our broadcasts. Over the summer, I had a pretty fun time putting together our new Studio B with Jeff. Here we are in the back of Studio B, where we have a couple things, most notably our iMacs, where students can come to work in Premiere and do some color grading. It's also where we have It's also where we have workshops in editing and color grading. And then on this side, that's where we keep the equipment that we have here at Studio B. Over here is a pretty fun room. It's our edit suite. So the focal point of the room is really the computer. It sports an NVIDIA RTX 3080 as a graphics card. No thank you. 64 gigs of RAM and a Ryzen 9 processor. We also have these 2 color-calibrated BenQ monitors and a large program monitor up here, so you can watch what's going on while the editor works their magic. This computer is also perfect for 3D modeling and animation. Follow me and I'll show you the rest of the place. So over here, and this is where the entrance is, this is our multifunctional space. So this is where our clubs meet. It's also where we set up a control room for our live shoots. No thank you. The live shoots happen in the next room. This is our studio space. This is the largest space that we have here at Studio B. Come on in. So this is the studio. This space was designed to be kind of like a blank canvas for the students so that they could create and produce any kind of show that they really wanted to do. Right now we have a news show on Mondays that goes live to YouTube called Ponderscope. So students deliver student news to students. On Thursdays, we have kind of a zany game show that we call Brain Run. Again, that is live to YouTube, and then we put it. No, thank you. We put it on air later. That's our rear projection screen. Where we.
Hi, I'm Sean Keane, ACMi's Government and Programming Coordinator.
As always, ACMi provided comprehensive coverage of town elections in the spring of 2022, including Candidates Night sponsored by the League of Women Voters, video profiles of the candidates in various races, the only televised debate in the hotly contested race for town moderator, and of course live coverage of voting results. Continuing the expanded meeting coverage that we started during the pandemic, ACMi's library of content has considerably grown as meetings have increased in both volume and frequency. With most committees meeting in a hybrid format, the ability to record both in person and online has given ACMi more flexibility to continue covering meetings that were added to our roster during the height of the pandemic. With one of the longest Arlington Town meeting sessions in over a decade, ACMi presented all 13 fully remote meetings as 77 warrant articles were covered under the new town moderator Greg Christiana. ACMi assisted town meeting members in creating and promoting warrant article videos to inform voters of the proposed legislation in advance of town meeting. This approach allowed members to absorb information at their own pace before the meeting itself, which made voting a quicker and more informed process. As Arlington's Remote Participation Study Committee discusses options for shifting all townwide meetings to our hybrid format, ACMi's coverage of meetings are an essential component. Even as we move past the most acute phases of the pandemic, we continue to feel its effects and the unique challenges it presents to local government. ACMi strives to refine its broadcast coverage using new technologies to promote increased civic engagement.
Welcome to the control room here at ACMi. So this is a teleprompter station. The audio board's over here. Audio technician. This is the video switcher and the video multi-viewer for the switcher. And this is where all of our sources come in. We get to switch them out and they go to the record deck behind me. I was setting this up over here, which would be fun to explain what a REMI or a remote production over internet would look like. These 2 stations is something that Jason Audette, our engineer this past year, set up. We can do a production, a talk show, a Zoom meeting, or one of our virtual studio resources, which is StreamYard, which is what I have set up here on REM 2. Now, we bring guests in from any and all different ways using these remote locations. And the audio for those goes to our audio board, the same way the microphone for the host and guest goes into the soundboard. And the video goes in to the switcher the same way the cameras do. So these are camera feeds set to color bars. But then we have Remote Guest 1 or the StreamYard feed. And we can now bring all those into one show in the studio, and it's seamless. We've all learned so much about remote productions when, just throughout these last few years with COVID and remote participation in meetings and using Zoom in productions, using StreamYard, folks being able to participate from home. And we had to figure out how to do that in the field. So for town meeting, for high school sports, things like that. So we were able to take that technology in our studio and utilize it. So we're doing this same type of hybrid technology in all of our locations. So Studio A, Studio B. Studio B used StreamYard to do a cutaway to Dave Simarco. First time back on the ACMi channels in a long time. Folks at Studio B were able to talk to Dave Simarco doing a cooking segment for their Thanksgiving Day special. That was using StreamYard technology. When we are in here and we're talking with folks about their nonprofits or anything like that, we were able to do web tours and share the screen and things like that. Things that we never thought of before COVID to do in studio. We're bringing these remote participants into the studio with creatively and productively. Over here, another project Jason did while he was here was set up a analog dub station. So this is taking some of our legacy equipment and putting it together with a switch so that we can digitize it on the computer. We have high 8, mini DV, SVHS, VHS, 3/4 inch. That's these big cassettes, guys. And we have a number of cases of these. So if there are volunteers or ACMi members that want to help, there's a lot of stuff, and we could really use your help and time. And I think it would be fun looking back. We have some content going back as far as 1986.
Oh, hi. I didn't know you were here. I am Jeff Barn. I'm the news director for ACMi News. We put on a weekly show every week. We tape it on Thursday. And my right-hand man is right out there, editor Jared Sweet.
Jared, you want to be in the promo? No, thanks. Are you sure? Yep.
This year we have basically changed our graphics. We have new music. We have put new promos in. Just a lot of things. We've done a lot of stories as far as government's concerned, education, public. Whatever's happening that week, we have it covered. Where do I start? Let's see. Well, now let me think back. As expected, ACMi News delivered its hyperlocal news coverage this past year each and every week. In just the past month on our YouTube channel alone, ACMi News coverage has had nearly 5,000 viewers, watching a total of 400 hours of hyperlocal content with nearly 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube page, and we aim to increase that number substantially in the new year. And we've had a lot of help. After all the isolation in the midst of the COVID crisis, we had interns and volunteers slowly returning to ACMi for its weekly newscast, which we tape every Thursday. We were fortunate to have several very active self-starting interns in the spring, summer, and fall of this year for ACMi News. Some interns wanted to do work behind the camera, while others tried their hand at on-air work like reporting and anchoring. And hey, one intern from Tufts decided to continue her work at ACMi even though her summer semester ended back in August, and she is now a regular weekly news anchor on our set. This past year, we reconnected with some former news interns who have gone to bigger and better things in the field of television news broadcasting from Bangor, Maine.
And I wanted to be an anchor and I wanted to be a reporter. And I had a professor there who told me ACMi would be the perfect fit for me.
To San Diego, California.
17's Moses Small is in studio now with more on these shootings.
Thank you, Jim. The Bakersfield Police Department and the Sheriff's Office used their firearms to stop 2 suspects last night, and here's what we've learned since then.
To Savannah, Georgia.
And an end to the shortage. Reporting in Savannah, Isabella Turst, Fox 28, News at 10.
ACMi has great resources, great equipment, great people teaching you, guiding you, that space to make mistakes. Those are really important things to look for in your first job.
These former ACMi News interns are the next generation of credible storytellers, and they attribute their success to, well, us. Us. Ow. And this year, ACMi News was fortunate enough to score big news stories from half a world away that impacts all of us. And they were stories you didn't see on any Boston commercial TV news outlet.
John and Natasha Sennett from Kyiv, Ukraine. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Glad to be here.
We recorded several interviews with Ukrainian residents trying to cope with the horrors of war in their nation, including a journalist who is now working full-time for a nonprofit called the Ukrainian PR Army, a group devoted solely to debunking false information coming out of the state-run media in Moscow.
And I hope that more people won't believe every lie that Putin says, because now I feel like people in Russia are like brainwashed.
It comes down to the offensive that's coming from the Ukrainians.
We also had the opportunity of interviewing a couple who fled Kyiv after the Russian army began targeting their capital.
But still, I will be going to bed this day, and I still don't have my sister. And tomorrow I will be waking up, and I still don't have my sister.
ACMi News also interviewed a Ukrainian refugee currently living in Portugal who was separated from her family after the Russians raided her northeast Ukrainian village just a few hundred yards from the Russian border.
His parachute opens at about 15,000 feet.
We also interviewed Francis Gary Powers Jr., the son of the infamous U-2 pilot Francis Gary Powers, who was shot down over Russian airspace in May of 1960. That story inspired the Steven Spielberg movie Bridge of Spies.
But you were the only one who reacted physically.
I was the only one who had a chance. The way things were set up, I was in the car behind the president's car on the left hand.
And just 6 weeks ago, ACMi aired a news special entitled My Travels with Mrs. Kennedy, a half-hour interview with Clint Hill, Jacqueline Kennedy's personal and favorite Secret Service agent, who was the only agent to immediately act when shots rang out in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963.
Because I'd never discussed it with anybody. Talked to the Warren Commission, they asked pointed questions, but I really never talked to anybody. No agents, none of my family members, I never talked to anybody. And none of the agents actually did.
And I got to know Jimmy Stewart probably better than anybody I impersonated.
On a much lighter note, ACMi News was able to score interviews with a number of Hollywood celebrities, some of whom have ties to the Arlington area. We talked to actress-director Lee Purcell, actress Michael Learned from TV's The Waltons.
I grew up in Kansas, had never been out of Kansas in my life. I was a school teacher there. I said, if I don't leave now, I'm never going to get out of here.
Actress Dee Wallace, who starred in E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Comedian impersonator Rich Little.
Just close your eyes and you would think that Jimmy Stewart was there. You're watching the man who shot Liberty Valance and not someone who is so good at imitating him.
Well, Jim used to say to me, Rich, I wish I'd known you when I was making all those movies back in the 40s.
Actor impersonator Jim Meskimen.
I saw you on TikTok do Patrick Stewart. I'm thinking,
yes. Well, I tell you, I'd like nothing more than to be Patrick Stewart for just a moment with you. You've been a very gracious interviewer, and I'd be very happy to return any time to comment on this and that, or just to stare blankly at you like some sort of Celtic mannequin.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I almost forgot. ACMi News won the nationally recognized Hometown Media Award for news access. Yes, ACMi News is now #1 in the nation for the year 2022.
so many good memories. But we have done so many things this year, and we're very proud of the entire operation. And we're looking forward to bigger and better things. And hate to use a cliche, but taking it to the next level this year. We definitely want to increase our viewership. We want to increase our story count. And thank God that people are at least coping with COVID, that we can get the volunteers and the interns in here so they can also get started with their careers. And that's one of the most enjoyable parts of my job. Now, there's someone else I rely on here in the news operation, and that is our communications manager, James Milan, because he does a lot of town updates, and I throw them into the newscast. So I am going to stop talking now, which is very hard for me to do, and toss it to ACMi's communications director, James Milan. James, take it away.
Hey everybody, I'm James Milan. I am the communications manager here at ACMi. Well, you already know, we are a local media company, or local media service, basically, for the Arlington area. And that means, of course, we need studios, we need cameras, we need all kinds of equipment and facilities to do this magic. You've seen all of that from my colleagues. Well, I got to tell you, there's some mundane parts of the work that we do as well, and guess who gets to do those? That's me, that's my computer, that's where an awful lot of stuff happens, because again, communication's important. I also wanted to mention that a very important tool for our communication and our effective communication is our new website, which we spent an awful lot of time trying to get right, to make sure that it best suits the needs of the people who want to access ACMi content, who have questions or requests or suggestions to make, and who want to just know what is going on in general in Arlington.
We have 3 YouTube channels, and all 3 channels increased by about 25 to 30% in subscriber numbers. We just hit 2,000 subscribers on our main ACMi channel, 1,000 on sports, and are almost at 1,000 subscribers on news. Key videos for audience retention this year included Audison graduation, variety of select board and government meetings, school concerts, and the Taste of Arlington episodes were also pretty popular. This year we started live streaming more, especially our youth productions and sports programming, so that has been really neat to see the progress on that. The various social media accounts of ACMi, ACMi News, and ACMi Sports all experienced an increase in the number of followers for this year. Engagement rates have been good at 1 to 5% for Facebook and Twitter, and Instagram is higher at 13 to 14%. The subjects in the top posts are usually youth and government related, which follows trends that we normally see.
The one other big thing that I do in town, and maybe you might know this already, is I get to host an awful lot of our news and public affairs programming. A lot of it takes place right next door here in our main studio, which I know you've seen before, but come, let me show you the set that I spend a lot of time on for public affairs. So it's a tough commute, I guess, I gotta say, from the office to getting over to where the business and the magic happens. But this is our Talk of the Town set. Again, this is kind of a good illustration of the versatility of our main studio here at ACMi, where we can film entire music broadcasts and public affairs broadcasts over in this corner of the room while maintaining our news set in the other part of the room. So 2022, not greatly distinctive from other years in terms of public affairs programming and our communications department in general. And by that, I mean we were humming, and that's how we like to be.
Well, that's a lot of material to cover now, isn't it? Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you for your attending this particular report, and we will be back next year with even more stuff. In the meantime, I want to wish you a Happy New Year, and thank you again for attending. I'm Norm McLeod, Executive Director of ACMi, Arlington Community Media. That's all, folks.
There you go, folks. All right, so you see what I mean about having a creative staff? That's fabulous. That's fabulous. And for those of you who are watching at home, come on in and join us. We need more creativity from your perspective. So, I'm going to pass this over to John. Take my hat off. I'm not going to blind you with the glare. Okay. Take it away, John.
We want to thank you all for coming, and as the board and myself, we're really proud of our staff and what they've achieved this year, as we are every year and have been for the last 16 plus years. And we have a big thank you to Norm for once again leading us through a difficult year and having us come out this end. And thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next year.
Great. Woo!
That other guy was easier to deal with.
Hey, what?
The little guy was easier to deal with.
The little guy? You're trying to make a cod out of me? Come on.
If you weren't a cod piece.
That's brilliant.
I doubt there's any questions.
What?
Do you want to do any questions and answers?
Does anybody have any questions or answers?
Well, especially
answers?
now's your chance, guys.
Well, if you have a question or answer, now's your chance.
Hey. Now or later, we'll hang around.
I'll ask them.
All right.
Sure, what's up?
Have you thought of other ways of fundraising, like have a fundraising campaign, or do a silent auction?
We are starting to, we're going to have our next board meeting devoted strictly to that. We are thinking of different ways of campaign and different ways to get out to the townsfolk that we do have a need for extra money at this point in time, and how we would run those campaigns. We're going to try and figure that out in the next few months. And we hope whatever we're able to do will significantly help us in the budget process. Because of the size of our budget, if we're going to run any additional campaign, fundraising campaigns, we've got to do something that's going to make a difference for us and be worthwhile. But any extra money we get is great help. If you have any ideas, bring them forward. Any other questions? Thoughts?
Nothing, Arson? Nothing at all? Mia? 0 questions. Everything makes sense. All right.
There we go. There you go. Well, thank you all.
All right, folks. Thanks. Have a good night.